be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. Glory to you, Lord. Then they came to Capernaum, and on the Sabbath Jesus entered the synagogue and taught. The people were astonished by his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. In their synagogue was a man with an unclean spirit. He cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." Jesus rebuked him and said, "Quiet, come out of him." The unclean spirit convulsed him, and with a loud cry came out of him. All were amazed and asked one another, "What is this? A new teaching with authority? He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." His fame spread everywhere throughout the whole region of Galilee. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So I wanted to begin this morning by paying homage to the humble sandwich that we all know so well. The dictionary definition is that it's an article of food for a light meal and is composed of 2 slices of bread and a savory filling. And from there, the human imagination runs wild. I say that because Mark today treated us in a literary way to a gospel sandwich. The bread in that sandwich were the verses at the beginning and the end of that short account that said, Jesus teaches with authority. And the filling was that remarkable act of power that Jesus did on behalf of the unclean man. That has to be the most unique and nourishing sandwich any of us could imagine. And here's why. Remember the setting where all of this is taking place. The time. The Sabbath. The place. The synagogue. It's a sacred moment. And in the midst of that sacred moment, in comes the unclean man. What's understood there is that he doesn't belong. He's unclean. But he disrupts things by entering and making his presence known. And yet, it was a far more disruptive act that Jesus did on his behalf. As I said, the literary sandwich has for its bread these key phrases about Jesus who is so persuasive when he teaches, or after the act. The people say, the word of Jesus has power. And what's immediately odd about that is that Mark didn't tell us what Jesus taught. We don't know. We do know he taught in a different way from the teachers of the law, who would go to school, would learn, and then would share with the people what they had learned. And we also know that what Jesus taught made a profound impression. His teacher evaluations were off the charts good. If you look at the comments section, here's what you'll read. He taught with authority. the students, the listeners, were astonished. I'd love to tell you, after my 28 years of university teaching, that my students were astonished. But I'll settle for they listened, for about half of what I was saying. And all of us who have taught have had that experience. Jesus was good. Then to the savory filling, this exorcism Jesus performed. What strikes me, first of all, about that is how unique were his methods. We tend to associate that sort of action with incantations or spells or special acts. And how did Jesus do it? With a simple command. He rebukes the devil and says, "Come out of him." They obey. And I think this morning we should give the devil his due. Because in that very short account, he reveals that he knows he's met his match on this morning, in that place, and at that time. It's a conversation that he engages in that is laced with irony. He says to Jesus provocatively, "Have you come to destroy us?" Well, yeah, that's exactly right. And then he calls him, think of this, "You are the Holy One of God." A plus. This is the very beginning of the gospel, and the unclean spirit has already figured that out. And what that tells us is that we're dealing with more than simply a wise teacher and more than simply a powerful healer. Yes, Jesus is all of that, but he's much more. The Holy One. When the Bible uses that term holy, it uses it very consciously to say this is something or someone set apart from the ordinary and the profane. This is someone intimately connected with God. We will shortly pray together, "Holy, holy, holy Lord." The devil is teaching us that Jesus reveals both God's person and God's salvation. The power to exercise belongs to God and to Jesus. Jesus, in this very early episode in the gospel, is reclaiming the entire world and every person in it from the dominion of evil. That, my sisters and brothers, is a teaching that has profound implications. It means that if we associate with Jesus, then we can become holy and we can share in God's very life. I suspect we can all agree that in 2015, not a single person got the answer to the following question correct. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? Little did we know. But remember, every calendar's days are numbered. 2020, goodbye. Here we are at the beginning of a new year, at the beginning of a new liturgical year, and at the beginning of the Gospel of Mark. Let's be encouraged more than ever, because Jesus, the Holy One of God, can and is making a huge difference in our lives. And let us like those people privileged to hear and see him in the synagogue that morning, witness what he taught and how he backs it up with this remarkable act of power, let us also, like them, be astonished always that Jesus came among us.